Welcome to the Vault, where Central Illinois' best kept stories are held.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks. Yeah, happy to be here.
So we're here with Nick from TechGuard Security. We're going to talk a little bit about him and about TechGuard itself. So you're a Springfield guy, right? You grew up around here?
Yep, born and raised in Chatham,
Sweet.
K through 12. Yeah, happy to be. We went through, my wife and I both born and raised here. Moved away for school. Went to Ole Miss. Sadly graduated in 4 years. Couldn't extend that.
It's pretty fun down there from what I've heard.
It was a good time, good education. Couldn't extend that any longer, it's time to grow up a little bit. But
Did you go to school for, IT security, that sort of thing?
Not necessarily IT. I did go to school for criminal justice.
Okay.
I was a criminal justice major and professional writing minor.
Okay.
In that, and then following graduation, actually didn't really want to get a big boy job quite yet, so I moved
Fair
up
enough.
to Alaska. Worked there from May to September on a salmon ferry. So that was...
Can't just gloss over that you worked on salmon.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was good. It was, I mean, truthfully, it was life-changing. I really enjoyed it. We were pretty well, not totally off the grid, but, cell reception was limited. You only go to town, maybe once a week, if that. So what you catch is what you eat.
Right.
So you learn pretty quickly.
Literally, yeah.
So how's salmon fresh from the ocean up in Alaska?
It spoils you. There's
Yeah, I bet.
anytime we go around here and I see salmon, it's just it might be good, but it's not gonna be that
Yeah.
fresh out of the river.
Right. Yeah, you're not running to Hy-Vee's frozen fish section to get some salmon fillets to grill up. Yeah, as quickly as someone like me would. Yeah. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Did you tell people where you were going, or did some of your friends just what happened to Nick?
Yeah. I did let people know.
Good.
Yeah. I was up on the Kenai Peninsula.
Okay.
It's just south of Anchorage. The nickname is the Sportsman's Paradise, just from the hunting and fishing. Aspect of it. So it was cool. My wife, actually, girlfriend at the time, came up and visited for a week, so that was cool to be able to get to explore and show her kind of where I was located for.
Did you get into some of that sportsman stuff while you were up there?
Yeah, so I did a lot of fishing. Hunting up there is just tough. You really got to plan it with all the different licenses, and you get it I don't know. I don't want to get into specifics on the regulations, but you've got to have different guides for certain seasons and animals and things like that. But certainly fished. Brought back about 55 pounds of frozen salmon. So
Heck yeah.
that was enjoyable. Unfortunately, with about 15 pounds left, it was in my parents' deep freezer, and the deep freezer bit it.
No.
So
Man.
So that was a tough day walking down there to go get just a fillet of salmon, and it's all melted.
Well, you just found a great excuse to go back then.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So then you got back and you got what you call a big boy job. So was that in your field that you're in now?
So no, not still wasn't ready to.
Okay, all right, good deal.
My girlfriend at the time, now wife, Allison, she was at the time she's a year younger in school, so she was finishing up college and knew she wanted to go to dental school.
Yeah.
And so that was the goal, but we didn't know where she was going to go. At that point, I was still strongly considering law enforcement, but then just didn't really want to get locked down here if she was going to be, where she was applying all over the country. So luckily, she ended up getting accepted down into Southern Illinois, their School of Dental Medicine's in Alton, down there. So that was, most of the dental schools are in bigger areas, but it was kind of nice for me to be able to go, to a bigger area like St. Louis, and kind of really get my feet wet, if you will. So down there, I found a job doing federal background investigations for a contractor. Really learned a lot, and that role, it really kind of expanded my horizons, and also I think my ability to talk to anybody, regardless of their position or role. I was talking to very high-ranking military officials all the way down to, the kid right out of high school that's going into the military. So it was really good learning for me, interesting line of work, got to do a lot of things, got to travel to a lot of places I you wouldn't if you didn't have a reason to be there. So
for sure.
So that was fun. Got to see the country that way. But yeah, and then went from that. Got laid off in January of 2020 for foreseeable financial difficulties.
Sure.
We know what happened in March of 2020.
Yeah. Lots of people are in that boat.
Yeah. Right. So that was kind of a first time, being laid off. I mean, that's the only time I've been laid off. But it's just that feeling of there's nothing I could do. Was kind of what do I do now? Really takes a hit on you, I think. Getting laid off is tough. But I got a job as a foster care caseworker. Did that for just under a year. All respect in the world to social workers.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough gig. Yeah.
It just weighed on me way too much, and I couldn't do it.
It takes a lot out of you from what I've heard. So I don't think it's for everyone.
It's taxing, and you take it home with you.
Sure.
It's tough. So I started looking for a new job and was talking to some friends from Ole Miss. There was just talking about career paths and different things like that, and connected with one of my buddies, and he suggested TechGuard.
Nice.
So been there since. I actually just had my 3 years a couple of days ago. On Friday was my 3 year. So
congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Really enjoy it. Good people, good company. We're women owned.
Okay.
So that's a fun, kind of a unique aspect, especially being in the cybersecurity field. It's such a male-dominated industry to begin with. I saw something only 11% of the cybersecurity field is women. So I don't even want to know the number of how many of those are women-owned companies. So that's a cool aspect. Definitely, when you mix that and our tenure, we've been around since January of 2000.
Okay.
So you look at other industries, 2000's not that long, to be around a business. But when you're looking at the tech and the cyberspace, 23 years is.
Yeah.
That's something to hang your hat on. You're
for sure.
You're doing something, right?
Yeah, especially there's a lot of consolidation in your world too, right?
From what I've seen. Oh yeah, and there's you look at the big dogs, the enterprise, big tech companies, they're buying up. Yeah. And acquiring, all of those.
Right. Especially if you have a niche product that they want, right?
Exactly. And truthfully, it's kind of a saturated market to an extent. Sure. So there are a lot of companies that go under as well.
Makes sense.
But
so what exactly do you do over at TechGuard?
Yep. So I'm a strategic account rep, account representative. Essentially, I work with organizations, try to get a feel for what their pain points are in the cybersecurity space, and then align our services with their needs. Okay. Everybody's different. Your industry, organization size, your location. Just industry is a big one there. So just meeting with you and figuring out what you need, to make sure your business is safe, your customers' information is safe, and your employees' information is safe, really. And then our services a lot of them fall in line with compliance-driven. So whether that's different frameworks or in the banking, there's a lot of different, compliance, IT security framework, and then you get into the hospitals with the HIPAA, and all the different industries have their own framework. So it's really, making sure we'll help you fall in line with those through our services.
So has there been an industry that you think has kind of been a nice niche for you to work with?
Yeah, so TechGuard as a whole, we do a lot of government, that's kind of our bread and butter is government contracting. That's where we got our start. Still involved in that for the U.S. government, doing proactive and preventative services. Commercially, though, on my side, I would say banking and finance. We work with a lot of banks and different, I guess just fintech, if you will, in a space like that. And healthcare is another big one, just with all of the information that they're dealing with, and then all of the technology that leads into healthcare as well.
There was just something I think here in the news recently about a big hospital here locally that had an issue with that. What sorts of issues are you looking for to help, say, a medical field or something like that?
Yeah, so with really with any industry, there's kind of an underlying base level of cybersecurity that every organization should be doing, really. And, the more information you get, the more kind of high level, the more in-depth your security practices should get based off of the information you're dealing with. For hospitals, a lot of it is reoccurring vulnerability scanning. So vulnerability scanning is going to take a look at your network, identify vulnerabilities, so openings or weaknesses that bad actors or the cyber criminals exploit, and then take action on. So you run that scan, it produces a report. That's where our guys come in, our technical team. They'll go through the report with you, talk about remediation, fixing those things, and then the reoccurring, doing on the quarterly cadence, kind of make sure, because everything in the cyber and tech space is changing on a daily basis. So it's always good to keep, at least that quarterly look on your network to know what's out there. And then there's a service called pen testing, which takes that a step further, and that's more intrusive, if you will. That's going to be more, actually, we're going to see how far we can get, and we're going to truly try to hack you, and then we'll create a report, put together that report, go through it with you, talk about how we got in, ways,
that's got to be interesting.
Ways you need to fix this, and then, go from there.
Yeah, so kind of similar to that, kind of funny. Last couple companies that I've worked for, a lot of times we'll get these like spoof phishing emails, and I may or may not have clicked on some of them. They're really
you're kind of a legend. You're really called the.
They're like, this one actually said phishing in the subject line. You still clicked it.
It said do not click in bold lettering.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta click this. I don't know. Maybe it's IT. I don't know.
They called you the fisherman, right? That was your nickname on the bank.
Yeah, John the Fisherman. Yeah. But no, a lot of times I don't know if, I'm sure they were paying some company, IT company or somebody one of them was a LinkedIn post, and it said something about, I don't remember if it was follow somebody or accept a request to follow someone. I clicked it and boom, it came up with the phishing thing.
Really?
I was like, that was...
It was on LinkedIn?
No, it was... in our email.
Oh, got it.
It was a LinkedIn email, but if you hovered your mouse over the address line, it was,
interesting.
It wasn't LinkedIn actually, but it looked like it. I thought it was LinkedIn, and I clicked it, and thankfully it wasn't, malicious. It was actually our IT department, but I was like, okay,
yeah,
that's a little much.
You just got my wheels turning. I was just thinking if a potential intruder were to go outside of your email, because email's the obvious one, right? That's where you can report phishing and all that. If they were to send you a link on LinkedIn, theoretically that would be just as bad as one in your email, right?
Yeah, it just depends on how far they could get with or what they really do with it.
Yeah,
a lot of it's
right. I guess they're not getting access to your email that way.
Yeah, and then which is hooked to, to Prairie State.
Got it.
Or to wherever,
yeah.
But that training and phishing, cybersecurity awareness training, phishing, that's a service that we offer.
That's good.
We offer a managed service to that, which is different from a lot of other training and phishing platforms. We realize that I can count maybe 2 or 3 of my clients that their job title is security awareness training. There are larger clients, and their job is to run the training phishing platform. That's 2 or 3 people I can think of off the top of my head, but 99% of the other people are with the IT department or are the system, sysadmin or the CIO, something like that.
Right.
And security training it's not in their job title, so it often gets pushed, to the back burner there. So that's where our managed service comes in, and we can send, reoccurring training, reoccurring phishing simulations, pull the reporting and send it to you, and show hey, Fisherman John's back at it. This is his 3rd time.
John the Fisherman.
Yeah, sorry, get it right. But yeah, so it's
about time to write him up.
Yeah,
gotta go.
That's a really good way to not only test your employees, but also raise their awareness, because too often people don't. And if they do the training, it's once a year, and then you forget about it. A month later, you're back to clicking on emails.
Right.
So that yearly, the ongoing, reoccurring.
You having flashbacks here, right?
Yeah. Sore subject.
We'll change topics.
Yeah.
The reoccurring training, keeps it on your learners' minds, and And I think too, one thing that's important about the training and phishing is that we've all got, social media accounts,
Right.
Netflix, Hulu, whatever,
Right.
login accounts online. So the information that you're learning from the cybersecurity awareness training is applicable for,
That's a good point.
what we're doing, and then also you can take that and pass that on if you've got, your kids at home, I'm sure, or on some sort of social media
Right.
or video games and.
True.
Yeah, it's crazy because we've been doing this type of stuff at work for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, since the internet, pretty much, it's been getting progressively worse where the
Right.
training gets more intricate, I guess. But yeah, how much you actually have to use it in real life, the conversations I have to have with my kids about,
Right.
passwords. And I mean, when I was a little kid, I never thought about typing a password in a computer or being safe with cybersecurity, as a little kid.
Right.
But it's, everybody and everything is so connected to the internet that it's a conversation you have to have at home, work,
Right.
everything. So
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
So do you drive your wife nuts with your passwords at home? Is she like, why does it have to be 48 characters
Yeah.
and change every 2 weeks?
Passwords. Luckily, there's enough password managers out there. That
Right.
you can store them in and stuff like that. So that's more secure. But I definitely do get a lot of the texter calls from the parents,
Yeah, for sure.
or grandparents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I got this this email, and I don't know.
Yeah.
How does this look?
Yeah,
Legit,
You're the
you know.
guy in your family
Yeah.
for that now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
unfortunately.
The nurse that gets all the questions
Yeah.
he or she doesn't want is
Yeah.
you're that guy in your family.
Yeah.
That's called Nick. He'll know.
I love seeing the old people with an iPad and it has labels taped to them with all their passwords written
Oh,
on the
yeah,
iPad.
yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
that doesn't, like, you didn't even try. It's on the iPad if somebody steals it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah, that's and truthfully now with passwords, multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication is so. I mean, you've got to do it.
Right.
That stuff is
I've got there's a lot of information out there, and I'll show you guys after the podcast. But there's an infographic that shows how long it takes people to hack passwords.
You've talked about that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just like
Just when you add like a character.
how long it takes them. Yeah,
It's crazy, yeah.
yeah. So it's just
It
stuff
doesn't
like
take
that.
much to make it very secure, right? I think that's the point.
Exactly.
Is just a little bit extra effort instead of putting your dog's name and 23 after it or something like that. Just adding a special
I think
character. a little
for
bit
me,
longer.
this is a subject in my household today because this morning my wife just reset one of our passwords to one of our streaming services, and I was like, man, I really like that password we had. I got like an emotional connection to my passwords. So maybe my solution is I just need to get a better password manager. But
They say that, and then correct me if I'm wrong, if you start using phrases instead of words.
Yep, phrases are better, and then so instead of John's, so you could do John's blue shirt. Just instead of capitalizing each first letter, maybe throw it in random, what letters are capitalized, or throw in numbers that look like
Interesting.
that look like letters or could pass theirs. But phrases are definitely. But then the two-factor authentication really is essential, and it's. It just takes a matter of seconds. On your phone, you get the quick, and then now even iPhone, I noticed have, whenever you do the 2FA, it'll pop up in you don't even have to leave it. It'll pop up in your messages and say this code just came and boom. So that's great.
Which I
just
like.
The
Yeah.
YouTube,
just to have.
When Google just says log into your YouTube account, that's pretty easy.
that's a good way to do it.
The
yeah.
one thing I hate, and you can bring this up to the internet for me, please.
Yeah, go talk to the internet.
Capacha. Is that what it's called?
CAPTCHA.
Captcha, whatever.
I'm never
it's
going to be
called.
able to think of it as
Yeah.
captcha again.
I don't know what it's called. I hate it. It's like
Are you a computer or are you
Yeah. Are you a human?
are you a human? Yeah.
robot.
Yeah,
Whatever
are you a
it
robot?
says.
Yeah.
But it's like click the spot where there's a bridge, and I'm like, where does the bridge end and begin? I don't know. Is the pillar part of the bridge? I don't know.
Yeah, you got to call your engineering friends.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what this thing wants from me. Apparently, I'm not a human. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Robot could figure this out easier. I
You're,
think.
you're definitely a fisherman. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
So if you want to let your internet buddies know to stop the captcha, it would help.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I'd rather two-factor authenticate myself.
Next expo you go to or whatever in the tech industry, just go try to find those people.
I need to find the CAPTCHA table. Yeah, the booth. The CAPTCHA booth.
They're giving away little fire hydrants and stuff.
Parking the parking signals.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell them they pronounce it wrong too.
Yeah, CAPTCHA.
I think they changed it. I think it used to be pronounced that way.
So you have, I know from talking to you, you have clients like all over, not the country, and you have some international clients that you work with too, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you have a mixed portfolio of customers that are kind of all over the place, and then a concentration locally as well.
Yeah,
Right.
that's correct. So through some strategic partnerships that we have, in various avenues. Some are in the cyber insurance is it's a whole, you do a whole podcast,
Right,
whole
yeah.
podcast
Yeah,
about that. But yeah, through them and then just other partnerships and stuff that we have. I have clients, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, all across through Europe, and then here in Canada, U.S. and southward there. So it's definitely adds a. It's interesting. I've learned a lot, not only just about just communication skills and being flexible, but also just about culture and different holidays and things like that. And so it's been really interesting to see that, and then also just see the trends. They're on the total opposite side of the world, speak a different language, but their problems are the same ones. That we're dealing with here. In the United States. So and I like that, that dealing with companies across the world, but then, working with companies here, especially local companies, I really, kind of feel like I always feel like I'm doing a good thing for my clients, because we're helping them stay protected. But when you're helping, a local, smaller business, it really kind of, it feels good. And what you're doing is, you're helping, not a CEO buy the 10th vacation home, but maybe somebody, sponsor a youth soccer team or something that.
So. Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said for doing business with places that you do business, right? I mean, I think that's what we do for a living. So, and we are in an industry with financing businesses that we can kind of help people across industries. Which you've already talked about is something that you do. I mean, here locally, do you see a bigger need with different industries, or is there like a target size business that you seem to work the best with, whether it's your pricing or whether it's with whatever their needs might be? What does your typical client look like locally?
Yeah, so locally, I would say, anywhere from 5 people to 20, 5 to up to 200, I would say is our generally local, but I've got some of my clients overseas in the APAC market and stuff are in the 20 to 25,000 employees.
Those are big companies.
So it's drastically different when you're dealing with them and the small businesses here. But the small businesses, it's just the common pain point is just the knowledge. If not, it's kind of a newer field. A lot of business owners are, they didn't come up like we did with with technology, necessarily computers and emails.
Pointed at me.
But it's just it's encouraging when you see small businesses realize what they need to do to be able to protect their organization, and the small businesses are truthfully more of a target than the bigger ones, just because they are the lower hanging fruit. So we often say we obviously want the best posture you can have, but a lot of it comes down to just not being the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Because hackers are lazy. They're looking for the easy wins. They're not.
They're looking at it, I would assume, as a job where it's they're any hour that they waste not being able to hack somebody is an hour wasted. So
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So for them, it's just how can I make the most money as quick as possible and not waste my time. So. Yeah. That makes sense. Are you typically, and I think I might know the answer to this,
are you typically having folks, at least here locally, come to you after an incident has happened, or do you very often find people proactively reaching out to you for your services?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's usually about 50-50.
Okay. I would have guessed.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I'll edit that out. In fact, hold on one second. Don't move. Just want to make sure we're still recording. Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll do.
I'll edit that sneeze out.
We'll have a sneeze break.
Yes. Okay, ready?
So where were we?
Sorry.
So my question was, you said 50-50
Oh,
split.
yeah, okay. About what?
People coming to you either
Yes,
proactively
sorry,
or
yeah,
after
yeah,
something
yeah.
happened.
Yeah. So it's about 50-50 with companies, coming to us after attacks and then before. Unfortunately, it is fairly common that we do get, the after the attack, and then what can you guys do? Well, we can't do a whole lot. We focus on the proactive and preventative side of things. So our whole goal is to prevent you from getting to that scenario. But a lot of our services, like I said earlier, are compliance driven, or insurance driven as well. But they also can help kind of lower. I'm sure you guys are aware, but insurance premiums, regardless of what industry you're in, are skyrocketing.
Oh, yeah.
So cyber insurance is right there. So I can't say that our services will lower. I certainly can't say they'll lower your premiums, but they'll definitely maybe minimize the increase. Just because you're able to say, this is what we're proactively doing these services. There goes a long way. But the people that come to us before, it's almost like you almost want to thank them.
Yeah.
Like thank you for being proactive and realizing how
allows you to do probably more rewarding work, I would think, when something does come up. Be like, see, glad you did that.
Yeah, and especially with the clients that are the mom and pops. I would say the ones that are really small, and it's maybe it's just doing a cybersecurity awareness training for their 5 employees. Like, that's a win for me. I feel like I did something good that day, helping them. And I mean, the small businesses you guys deal with a lot of small businesses as well. I mean, they're the backbone of the local economy here. So
for sure.
And you hate to see one go out of business. You really hate to see one go out of business if they're doing good, but a cyber attack hits them.
Yeah, business that went out of business because of that. I mean, from the outside looking in, if you drive by it all the time and it's open and one day it's gone and you're like, man, that place was always packed, and you don't really necessarily. I'm sure it's happened here locally before, and people are still probably wonder what happened, but it could have been something like a cyber attack that they were extorted or whatever it was for money, and all of a sudden they can't operate anymore. You know what I mean? So, and from what I understand, the on the insurance side of things, IT or cybersecurity insurance products can be hit or miss. It seems like when you aren't taking the steps that you guys teach and some of the things that you sell, most of those insurance companies are looking for you to at least do the bare minimum to be able to qualify for, those kinds of insurance products.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes down to is there's no silver bullet in cybersecurity. There's no.
True.
I hate to break it to any business owner out there that if their IT or cyber provider has told them that they're fully secure off of their product, because it's not true. Unfortunately, I wish I wish that was the case. But it's unfortunate when you see instances like that. And there was, I don't want to misquote it, but it was a university in Lincoln, just 30 minutes north of Lincoln University, or one of the
Lincoln Christian is that the only university that's up there?
The one got shut down a year ago or so. From they cited COVID and a cyber attack. So so I mean, when you look at like that,
I didn't
you're
know
taking
about that. That would have been a perfect example of something that I didn't really get into the weeds on why it closed, but
so that's taking an educational institution out of our area. So I mean, that's
crazy.
That's a hit. I mean, think about how many people that
Right.
employees and everything that gets involved with a university.
Right. Well, and I think another piece of that is I don't think in me until I got into the field that I'm in, I didn't realize that the operating budget that some of these big companies, just because they're a big company doesn't mean that they have a ton of funds to be able to handle something like a giant cybersecurity attack.
Yeah.
They've got people to pay, they've got, and other investments that they have to make in the business. So, a giant hit like that, when you're a kid, at least for me, I just assumed every big business had a ton of money. Right?
Yeah.
You're just like, whatever happens to them, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of scary to think that, that university is a good example of something, if that's something like that happened here that took a huge employer out of Springfield, out of business, that'd be wild. So, yeah, I think you're helping me realize how important what you do is. Yeah, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. So,
So what would you say are like some top things that small businesses can do? Just simple things that anybody can do to prevent overall cybersecurity or help with cybersecurity, I should say.
Yeah. So multi-factor authentication is a great place. I mean, great place to start. It's not the end all be all, but it's definitely a good place to start. Cybersecurity awareness training. It's not that expensive. It's not even trying to advertise ours, but just it's not that expensive. It's not that hard, to get out and to send out. That goes a long way. Vulnerability scanning, like I mentioned earlier, is really a great way to at least know what's on your network. You don't know what you don't know. The age-old saying there.
Sure.
There, and then depending on what level you're at, I would start with those. There, I mean, obviously, this all goes without saying. You should have your firewall and stuff like that. But in terms of actual services, the training, the vulnerability scanning, and then ultimately, I think a good one is incident response planning.
Okay.
Essentially, incident response planning is putting your IT and your execs through an incident. We'll meet with you, put together a catered exercise. We're going to talk about your industry, structure, location, everything, get a feel for your organization, and then put together a couple different scenarios of cybersecurity incidents that you may experience based off of what you've told us and what we've gathered there. And then we put you through that exercise and basically work with you to from a kind of split it into two. We work with the execs on who's responsible for PR statements, who's responsible for notifying law enforcement, things like that, and then we'll also work with your technical team on who's responsible for what roles and things like that. So I describe it as the the fourth grade fire drill, where everybody lines up in a single file line. You walk outside and you go through the drill
process.
Yeah, and realistically, I heard at a conference we were at, I heard an industry leader say that realistically, there's more likely going to be a cyber incident than your building is going to burn down. And think about growing up, how many times we do fire drills and tornado drills.
That's a good point.
Things like that. So it's just knowing. And truthfully, it's not anymore. It used to be, I would say, if it happens, but now it's certainly when. It is really the kind of a scary, and I really don't like the fear tactics or anything like that. I think that's more on the educate, bring awareness to the topic. But yeah, I would definitely start with those: the vulnerability scanning, incident response exercise, security awareness training, and the what was the last one I said? I'm drawing a blank.
The incident.
Yeah, the incident response, vulnerability scanning. The quizzing you here, John. What do we?
I don't remember. It's not my gig. We can edit that out.
We can edit it out. You want to do your clap so you know where it is?
Okay, so here's a. Get serious here. So here's a.
Hold on. This.
Yeah, you keep.
I hate.
I know.
Could you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Every time you move, I wanted to grab your chair.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think you've been hacked or you've clicked on something you shouldn't have. Like, what's the first thing you do? Unplug your computer, throw it on the ground real quick, or I mean, it's like I'm like, I'm always like panicking, like, oh no, what did I just do?
Take my phone and throw it in a pond.
Yeah, pond water helps.
Yeah.
So like, should you get it off the network? Should you immediately change your passwords? Like, what's like a thing that you should do to really protect yourself quickly?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the most important step I would recommend is notifying your IT department. There's no sense in trying to hide it. It's only going to make it worse.
Right.
So just notify them, let them do their thing, and do what they tell you to do.
Yeah.
Don't try to be a hero. There's just be honest. Let them know, what you clicked on. Don't forward the email if you get a phishing email. That's a common thing we see and hear about is people, hey, John, do you think this was a legit phishing email? And then John, goes.
I screenshot it.
There, so screenshot.
Snip it.
Yep. That's better than. Yeah, but I would
check out this link.
Yeah.
Click this link and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Is this real or not?
What's going on here?
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend though getting it to your IT team as soon as you can, and just letting them do their thing. That's that's what they're there for. And
Right.
They're not going to be happy with you, but it's better than you trying to deal with it or try to. Because truthfully, you're not going to be able to deal with it without having the access and things like that.
Right,
but
right. Yeah, they're going to have to do a lot on their end.
Yeah, definitely get the pros involved and just do what they say. Really.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
So you grew up here.
Yep.
You moved away for a little while, and then you came back. Was Springfield a lot different than when you left it? You feel like, or looking at Springfield through the lens of an adult?
Yeah,
If you consider yourself that.
Yeah.
Some days I do, some days I don't. What felt different about Springfield when you got back?
Yeah, I think the main difference though was leaving when we were 18, or I guess by the time we 18 years old when we graduated high school, and you go away to college, or if you stay in the area, but then just kind of transferring from being just a kid,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
I know and recognize a lot of businesses
Right.
and stuff around town, but through the chamber, through Rise, through other organizations in the area, just getting involved and meeting, just realizing how big all the different
Right.
some of the companies are in Springfield, and just how interconnected. It's been I think kind of a whole different ball game. And then versus when you're younger, it's like if you go to dinner with your parents or somebody, you sit down at dinner, and somebody might walk by and it's like, oh, that's such and such from
Right.
whatever company, and as a kid it's like, okay, whatever, like back to drawing.
Yeah.
But, as an adult, it's different.
Right.
You're like, I'm making those introductions and things like that, so it's different.
Right.
And then too, from growing up here, my father was a small business owner here in town, so just kind of growing up around the small business there, and then now like going out and I'll see like some of his like former business or clients or things like that.
Right.
It's just kind of like it's different. You feel like a grown up. I guess.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like
get
a grown up, but I guess I've got to act like one.
Right. I get it. Yeah, you have to relearn your new ecosystem, right? I think when I moved back, I thought I thought I'd go to my first chamber event or whatever, and I'm like, I grew up there. I'll definitely know some people there. And you get to your first event, and you're like, what in the world? I mean, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And then you go to a few more, and you still don't know anybody except for the people you met at the first one,
Yeah.
right? And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess I need to dig a little deeper here and get to know some people that are outside my circle, because, it's easy to do.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too is that just growing up here, we don't realize how many people move to Springfield, Springfield for post college and stuff like that. I mean, it just it's interesting whenever you kind of think about that. UIS attracts a lot of people, Lincoln Land, but then obviously with the state and the hospital systems here, I mean, there's people from all over the state, so it's kind of cool to all your friends are here, and you go away to school and you come back, and there's still some of your good close friends here, so that's nice. But then it's also okay, this guy was a couple years older than I was in high school, but we have similar interests now, and so it's
you're relearning people you knew
pretty
well ahead.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So.
And I think, for me, living somewhere I wasn't from, kind of feeling some instances warmer welcome than others. It always definitely makes me, now that I'm back home, like if I meet somebody from out of town, I'm like, I got to get to know them and make sure that like, I'm not one of those people they think about when they think of someone that kind of blew them off because they weren't from here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, take a little bit more pride in those relationships sometimes.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of opportunities, I think, in Springfield in this area for
Absolutely.
for young professionals and for young adults, just to get out there and get involved. Central Illinois Customer Service Association, RISE, chambers, Springfield and Chatham both have chambers.
Right.
There's just a lot of other, and then there's countless charitable organizations
For sure.
here in town, really doing a lot of good work. So,
Was that your strategy when you moved back? Was to get involved with some different things and kind of see where that went? Because I know you were at probably either the first RISE event or the first few. Yeah. So.
Yeah,
that strategy.
Yeah, I mean that, and just to get involved to better the community, really. Right. It'd be, nobody's going to turn down a connection that they make at one of these events, but
right.
Really the reason, I know it is the reason I'm there is just to be able to contribute to the community.
Right.
You look around RISE and the chamber and events like that, and it's all industry leaders within our community. There, and so getting involved and just trying to help. And I'm proud to be from Chatham, from Springfield area. I think it's a great place to grow up, great place to raise a family. Cost of living is low. If you want to get away, you've got St. Louis, hour and a half away, catch a flight.
Right.
Pretty much wherever you need to go, and it's not too bad around here. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
so.
Me too.
So if people want to get a hold of you, reach out about cybersecurity, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can give me a call, 618-979-4980. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Nicholas Koch. I'm on there, or email, nicholas.koch@techguardsecurity.com. But yeah, that's really my best way to get a hold of me. If you see me out and about, by all means, say hi. I always like meeting new people, and just it's always interesting too. I think one thing I really enjoy about Springfield, not to get off topic, is how small of a big city it is.
Yeah.
Like there's so many. Like we just, for example, like the other night, my wife and I volunteer at Wouldn't It Be Lovely here in Springfield.
Yeah, and that's a great organization.
Yeah. So really happy we got involved with them and working, volunteering there. And I volunteered one of the first times there, worked like side by side with this lady all night, great conversation, really nice lady. And then I was talking to a good family friend, and I was telling her that we had gotten involved with Wouldn't It Be Lovely, and she's like, "Oh, you need to meet Sue." Like knew who this lady, and I was like, that's who I worked with, and like they had both been teachers together, and it's just those small connections.
Yeah, you and I did that when we had coffee.
Yeah.
It was like we had coffee with the first like 4 people we met with, the same people. It was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice.
So you kind of followed the same game plan there to kind of learn, because you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out where to get started and where to meet people and all those things. So
yeah,
I think you're right.
A lot of people have been. Everybody's been very, very welcoming and kind of encouraging, almost, if you will, of happy to help.
Right.
So which goes a long way, because I know sometimes that can be, there's not necessarily anything in it for them to help you connect you to this organization or whatever that may be.
Right.
So.
All right, man. Well, it's glad to have you on today. We appreciate you stopping by the vault to tell us about your story. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate being on, and looking forward to catching more episodes of The Vault.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Good times.
Good.
The Vault, where Central Illinois' best kept stories are held.